Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a whole new episode of Full Steam Ahead. I'm your host, Zoe. Got my partner in crime on the other side, Mr. Cantu.
What's good? What's good?
Today, we have a special guest joining in the house, a fellow Houstonian, U of H grad, J. Frank Doby grad as well, Longhorn Nation right there. MLB Central host and on MLB Network as well. You could catch him at 8 a.m. Central Time on MLB Network, MLB Central. Robert Flores. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you very much, guys. How are you?
Good. Like
It's
I
good.
was telling you, oh yeah, good. I mean, all fair. We're talking about this Texas Heat. Ain't playing over here, but in New York, I'm pretty sure it's just good over
Yeah,
there.
we're not grappling with the temperatures that you are, but man, I still have a lot of family in the area, and they definitely tell me how much the heat has been affecting people in your neck of the woods. So hopefully, the fall weather won't be too much further around the corner.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker's actually bringing this heat for how hot he's been lately. So I think that's the case on that one.
Yeah, I mean, he has been this whole Astros team as well. But before we get started, let's talk about your Twitch channel. You could get Robert Flores at Real Flow on Twitch, the Real Flow on Twitch. Big gamer,
Yeah.
wrestling, MLB The Show. I think
hmm
Madden, you're starting as well, correct?
Yeah. I grew up playing video games. I remember my first console was in television. I mean, that's how far it goes back, and it's just remarkable to see uh, where video games have come, where the consoles have come, and just what people can do with them and the content they create. So I like it. It's a different way to and another way to connect with fans,
Mhm.
and I really enjoy it. Like you said, I mostly play MLB The Show, and obviously with the baseball tie-in, that makes natural sense. But I play Madden and 2K. I don't play them very well, but I enjoy playing them.
Relatable, relatable.
Yeah, so I mean, shoot. And just now, think about it. PS4 and PS5, you're able to buy your games on the system. Back
That's
then,
that's that's crazy,
yeah,
right?
back then you had to just wait in line, wait for the drop
Yeah.
for the video game or even the game console now. I mean, it's crazy how you could just buy these games online and don't even have to just go grab the disc. Are you big on that, or do you still like to grab the disc, of
I
course?
mean, I grew up in kind of that that blockbuster video
Oh yeah.
age of renting movies and games. I mean, for me, there was nothing better on a Friday, uh, going with either your family or maybe your buddies or your girlfriend or whatever, and renting a movie or something. So I missed that. I missed the blockbuster, and then they had the popcorn and the
Yeah.
candy right there as you're checking out, and there was no better feeling than when you were waiting on a game or something, and they had some copies left over there at Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or wherever you rented video.
Yeah.
So I miss those days, but I mean, yeah, you're right. You don't even have to leave your house.
Nope.
I mean, if you got the console, you basically have the entire gaming library right there at your fingertips. You just download it, and boom, it's in your console, and you're raring to go. So, like I said, it's unbelievable how far that they've come, and just all the changes since when I grew up playing them.
Yeah, technology is just changing the whole world now. I mean, obviously, you've seen through the gaming systems, through television. Next thing you know, we're going to be driving in cars on air. So it'd be interesting to see what the future holds for us. But since we're on the topic of the video games, and you, like you said, you play MLB The Show right now,
Yeah.
it is in season. Um, can you tell us? You had to have a toughest opponent out there that you have faced on MLB The Show because there's so much gamers, so much
Um,
streamers out there.
Yeah, I will say it. I mean, I'm there's so many really good players, and I mean, you'll run into like 16-year-olds online, and they're just they're so good, they're dominant, they got those young people reflexes. I will say I've had a chance to play with some professional athletes and some major league players,
Mhm.
and Blake Snell of the San Diego Padres. We hosted um, during COVID in
Yeah.
2020. We had MLB The Show and MLB Network and Major League Baseball. We all kind of teamed up, and the MLBPA, and had basically a 30-person tournament of MLB The Show. And Blake Snell ended up winning. I've had a chance to play Blake a couple of times, and he's really good. So It's cool when you can kind of see some of the major league players and they play. There's a handful of them that I know are very, very good and they play it a lot. Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians is very
Oh
good and
wow,
loves to play it.
did not know
Jazz
that.
Chisholm, who's on the cover of this year's game, he plays it a lot. The thing with baseball is it's such an everyday sport. It's such a long season that I think sometimes they just don't have the time
Hmm.
to play it. And then when the season's over, sometimes the last thing they want to do is be around baseball or to play even more baseball. But it's really cool to see when you can have a few of the major leaguers, participate in the game.
Yeah, definitely. And then with MLB The Show too, I mean, just this year, from last year, they had you could create your own stadium kind of thing. I mean, I thought
Hmm.
that was pretty cool. They moved it to this year, and then they added the Negro Leagues, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
to have on MLB The Show, especially with these Satchel Paige and all these other
Yeah.
guys. Can you tell us, besides if you, I mean, you could pick one of the Negro League players if you want to, but which of your like top three you would start playing like with those cards on MLB The Show? Your top
Um,
three?
yeah. I mean, they have they got the Satchel Paige cards and Buck O'Neill and Jackie
Mhm,
Robinson. I mean, those are all really cool cards and virtual players to play with and play as. I just think it was a really smart and important move for Sony San Diego, who produces the game and PlayStation
mhm,
and MLB The Show, to team up with the Negro Leagues or the Negro League Museum. Bob Kendrick, who's the president there, does an outstanding job of preserving, I think, the legacy and the history of
mhm,
the Negro Leagues. He's fond of saying it's not just uh, African American history; it's American history. So I
mhm,
think it's a really great way to uh, teach or to expose the story of the Negro League and its players to a younger generation, to just so that they're not forgotten. And I thought it was just a stroke of genius for all the powers that be to include the Negro Leagues in the game, because it's definitely a worthy story. And I urge people, if you're ever in Kansas City, I have not had a chance to check out the Negro League Museum in Kansas City, but I understand it's amazing. So I know they're trying to expand there in Kansas City. So hopefully they can complete that, because it sounds like a worthwhile project.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you got so many baseball museums too. You got the Jackie Robinson in New York. I
Mhm.
believe there's one over there. You have the Roberto Clemente in Pittsburgh, and then like you were saying, one of the most famous museums for baseball. And like it doesn't just go with just the type of history for baseball, but American history
Right.
with the Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City. But before we get with our Astros content, our
Yeah.
our questions, give us your top three cards on that game that you would love to play every day.
Excuse me. You know, there's a Mickey Mantle card that's outstanding.
Mhm,
There is a Ken Griffey Jr. card that just came out probably about a month ago that is really, really good. And the Chipper Jones card. So it's really cool. It's a cool game. And I tell you what, um, when I was first starting at MLB Network back in 2016, I was a baseball fan. Obviously, I was exposed to the game from working at Sports Center and ESPN for all those years, but I felt like there's a different level of knowledge, I think, that is required when you work at MLB Network, because the fans
mhm.
that watch it, I mean, the fans that watch our network are obviously dialed in. They love it. They love the game and they can't get enough of it. And MLB The Show was one of the things that I used to get more familiar, not with just the stars and the big names
Mhm.
around the league, but some of the maybe just some of the lesser known names, like who is the middle reliever for the Cincinnati Reds, or
Yeah.
who's the backup shortstop or bench player for the Cleveland Guardians. So I was able to use MLB The Show to help me learn the game a little bit more when I first arrived back in 2016.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because especially like, if our generation, if we're talking, for us, we didn't know who Bucky Dent was. We didn't know who
Hmm.
Whitey Ford was, kind of these unknown players. And then when you
Yeah.
play the game, you're getting these legends, these, balling as a pack, and you get one of these guys discovered. I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty good. And the next thing you
Yeah.
know, you're researching them and seeing how, their career ended or even started.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I think it's a great way to not only grow the game and expose fans to the players of today, but also the ones that came before, the players from yesteryear. I think it's definitely it's a fun game. I obviously enjoy playing it, and I think the future is bright for the franchise.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely, definitely. But let's go with our Astros questions. Here we go. I mean, you're a big Houstonian, obviously. You lived
Mhm.
in Houston and an Astros fan as well. If anybody did not hear your video that you had done for MLB Network after the
Yeah.
Astros won the World Series, goosebumps. I'm telling you, just
Oh, thanks.
goosebumps.
We did I wrote an essay. I wrote an essay when the Astros won in 2017,
Mhm.
and that was a lot of fun, and it did really well on social. And then I wrote another one after they won the 2022 series, beating the Philadelphia Phillies, and the people there at the network, the editors and producers, they did a great job of putting it together, and it did really well. Got a lot of views, got a lot of likes and retweets and comments and stuff like that. Some salty comments as well, but I enjoy those as well. But no, it did really well, and it was pretty well received, which made us all very happy.
Definitely, it was very amazing to see that video. But the Astros this year,
Hmm.
up and down season, you could really say a lot
Yeah.
of injuries. And, the
Hmm.
injury bug had come through this season compared to last season. Really, I mean, this
Yeah.
year a lot of injuries has happened for the Astros. So they just took it serious against the Miami Marlins. That first
Hmm.
game didn't look promising, but that offense finally surged and did a pretty good job. But now this upcoming homestand, they're going to face the Seattle Mariners and the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
How do you feel about where the Astros stand coming down the last stretch of this season?
Well, as we sit here on Thursday evening, they're 2.5 back, and I think they have to be pretty fortunate considering all the injuries that they have sustained, as you mentioned, especially in the starting rotation. I get the sense that we have not seen the best of this team
Yeah.
in 2023. I think injuries have a lot to do with that. Also, this team has played a lot of games, a lot of
Mhm.
postseason games since their run that started back in 2017. I mean, you could make the case it started back in 2015, but of course, winning the World Series in 2017, that's a lot of games. That's a lot of wear and tear. I was resigned to the fact to start the year that they would start slowly, that it would be a little bit bumpy, just because of it's so difficult to repeat. There's a reason we haven't seen a repeat champion since the Yankees in 2000. There's a reason, because it's very difficult. It's a lot of games. You're playing a lot of extra games, high pressure games on the biggest of stages. And that's difficult to kind of
Mhm.
marshal and muster up the kind of energy to do that again on over such a long season. But I think they have to feel pretty good about where they're at. But with that being said, the Texas Rangers, they are a very, very good team. My sense is it's going to come down to that big series over, I think, Labor Day weekend there in Arlington. If the Astros can take 2 of 3 there in Arlington, maybe they win this division. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with that 100%. That series will be huge because I feel like the Astros have had the Rangers number this season,
Mm-hmm.
and not just this season, but the series behind. But now again, the Rangers team is a lot better than. I mean, I feel like people expected it. It didn't show up last year, but this year they're like full gear. And how you were saying, the Astros have been missing pieces all season. Like they
Yeah.
just got Jordan back. They just got
Mhm.
Altuve back as well recently. But there's a guy in Sugarland right now, Michael Brantley. He's on the verge of coming back
Mm-hmm.
as well. He actually hit a home run in his first rehab assignment, which we were talking. Lorenzo and I were talking about. It was kind of surprising because that long layoff, and Jordan didn't even hit a home run in his first game back
Yeah.
in a minor league rehab assignment. But what can you expect? Or what can the Astros expect from Michael Brantley? You know, it's a long layoff. He's like
Yeah.
a veteran guy. You know, I don't want to say, age is just a number, but in baseball, that's kind of a big thing. Once you got to get in those 35 years old, it's kind of hard to come back. So, what can you expect from Michael Brantley?
Well, I think it's a little bit unfair for Michael Brantley, for the Astros or the Astros fans to expect anything or count on anything of consequence from Michael Brantley. As you said, it's been over a year since he played a major league game. I believe he first injured himself in June of
Yeah.
2022. Do I have that right? I think I have that
Yeah.
right. And here we are. It's mid-August. I just, you look at it. I think the way the Astros look at it is, hey, if he can give us something, awesome. That's great. Is he capable of it? If he's healthy, absolutely. But I think it's incredibly unfair and maybe a little bit unrealistic to kind of hang your hat and say, okay, here, Michael Brantley's he's ready. He's almost ready. As soon as he jumps in the lineup, or as soon as he comes back to the big leagues, he's going to be in that lineup. He's going to be in the DH spot, and he's going to roll, and this offense is going to be unbelievable. I think it's a little bit unfair and maybe a little bit unrealistic as well.
So do you think it'll be like kind of like a Carlos Beltran role in like in 2017 where he's like leaders?
I just don't even know if it's that, just because it's so late in the season. But look, if anyone can do it, there has not been a more professional hitter during his time in the big leagues than Michael Brantley. He has given the Astros and their fans some big time moments. But man, that's asking a lot. You bring up his age and the injury as well. Hopefully you just hope at this point that he's feeling okay and that he's healthy. And if those two things are happening, if he's feeling okay, if he's healthy and he's ready to go, then yeah, let's see what he's got, because this team could use another left-handed bat, especially off the bench.
No, yeah, I agree with you 100%. But speaking of another lefty and a long layoff, Jon Singleton is back with the Astros. He had that, I believe, 7 years of not playing? Playing in
8 years.
Leagues. 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years.
He had some personal issues, but it's a great sign for him to be back. He hit his first home run since like 2015, I believe. Do you think Jon Singleton will make a significant impact for the Astros late September or October?
I think that's difficult again. My thought is, if the Astros and their fans are counting on, if Jon Singleton can come in and start raking and I think there's there's bigger problems. I think you're just hoping. I think the way the Astros look at it is, hey, maybe he can give us something. Jose Abreu really hasn't done anything save for a few pockets here and there. Maybe once Abreu comes back, we can hit him. We can throw him, put him in the lineup against lefties, and we can have Singleton against righties, kind of a platoon situation, a two-headed monster at first base, and the two of them can combine to form something halfway decent. I just think, look, it's always going to come down to, is Jose Altuve hitting? Is Alex Bregman hitting? Is Yordan Alvarez hitting? Is Kyle Tucker going to hit? Those are your big four. The X factor, if you're looking for an X factor, it's Jeremy Pena in that lineup offensively. Two things concern me about this team: their offense, and Jeremy Pena struggles. He is not the only one that has struggled. And two, their defense. They're not as good defensively as they were last year. And you saw it in their final game in that series against the Marlins. They kind of booted the ball and throwing it around all over the place. For whatever reason, they're just not as good defensively as they have been last year. That's something that I'm going to keep an eye on moving forward.
For sure.
Yeah, most definitely, because Mauricio Dubon, if you look at that video, he had all the time in the world to throw it at first, and he just kind of not set his feet and just kind of threw it on the other side. But, offensively, there's your take on that. How about let's talk some pitching? JP France for being one of the biggest names in this season for the Astros. And let me give you some stats real quick before we talk about him. France among AL rookies, he ranks first in ERA with a 2.74. Also first in walks per 9 innings with a 265. second in WHIP with a 121 and an opponent OPS of 661. He's tied with Hunter Brown for the 11 quality starts this season among MLB rookies. His last 4 starts, he's pitched through 7 innings, and they've all been quality too.
Yeah.
So my question to you, what do you think about the production that the Astros have gotten from Jonathan Patrick France?
Listen, I think there was about earlier this summer, I think there was about a 2 or 3 week stretch where he was the Astros' most consistent starter. And I'm talking that this was prior to Verlander's arrival, but he was pitching better than Framber Valdez. He was pitching better than Hunter Brown. He was certainly pitching better than Christian Javier. He has been a very, very important part of this season. And he's going to get Rookie of the Year votes. I don't think he wins it, but he's going to get some votes, and he should. He has been excellent. I love his moxie. He doesn't seem fazed by the moment. He's pitching in the zone. His stuff plays. He keeps hitters off balance. So he's going to have to get some important outs for this team for them to get to the World Series and for them to win it. He's going to have to get some either as a starter or out of the bullpen. He's going to have to play a part, for this team to get to where they want to go. No, look at the top. It starts at the top of the rotation. Verlander, Framber, Hunter Brown has pitched pretty well recently. And again, if you're asking for an X factor, just like offensively, for me, Jeremy Pena was the X factor offensively. Christian Javier he's the X factor in that rotation. He's got to figure it out. But the thing is, I don't know if he can. We're running out of time. And if he pitches like he did last year, the Astros could win it again. If he doesn't, it's going to be very difficult. But for me right now, as we sit here mid-August, Christian Javier is not starting a playoff game for me. He's coming out of the bullpen. But we'll see. He's obviously got a few more starts to turn it around.
No, yeah, I feel like he loves being in 3-2 counts because that's all really what he gets into. Like the command is there,
and that's what drives the pitch count up, and that's what gets him in trouble. He's had a disappointing season. But again, maybe here maybe there's a fatigue issue here. He did pitch in the World Baseball Classic. He did pitch obviously well into the postseason last year. So maybe the gas tank is approaching E. But whatever it is, they've got to figure it out.
Yeah, he needs some refueling for sure. My next question. I know it's mid-August right here. There's still a whole bunch of crucial games and a lot of baseball left. But so far, who's been the Astros MVP this season, offensively and pitching?
Kyle Tucker, no doubt. If it wasn't Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Tucker would probably win the American League MVP.
Yeah, we're talking about that last.
I think you could throw Corey Seager in there, the Texas Rangers. But Kyle Tucker has been unbelievable. There were times throughout the season where he carried this lineup, especially when Yordan was out. Alex Bregman, we really haven't seen the best of Bregman, I don't think, although he showed some signs yesterday. Or in that series finale against the Marlins. Jose Altuve obviously missed some time, and everyone else has been a little bit inconsistent, but Kyle Tucker has been amazing. And I think the Astros cost themselves several $1 million by not getting a contract done prior to this season. He's going to get a new contract somewhere, and it's going to start in the 2s. So the Astros still have time. He still has a few more years of club control, but he's going to be a very rich young man very soon.
Oh, yeah. What about pitching?
What's that?
What about pitching?
As far as MVP?
Yeah.
That's a good question because it's been a little bit more inconsistent. Even Framber has had his struggles. Even when he, prior to the no-hitter, he wasn't very good. And post no-hitter, he wasn't very good. Man, that's a tough one. That is a really good question. Who's been there in? It might be JP France.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
I mean, if as crazy as that sounds, and there's reasons for that, namely his performance. He's been excellent, but with all the injuries, and they really had nowhere else to turn. They tried Brandon Belak for several starts, and he was okay, but he wasn't anywhere as good as JP France. And I think it's look the Astros. For me, the Astros screwed up when they didn't add veteran starting pitching
Yes,
prior to the season.
I agree.
Last year, all of their starters were healthy. They were pitching with a 6, sometimes 7-man rotation. They could give JV extra days off, all because everyone was healthy and pitching well. I think it's unrealistic. It was unrealistic for me to expect that all those starters would be healthy again next year. So why they didn't either add a veteran starting pitcher or just keep Justin Verlander. I think in their heart of hearts, they will tell you that was a mistake, and they paid for it. But that being said, injuries happen. And looking ahead to next year, I think it's going to be interesting to see what their rotation looks like, because you do now have, in theory, an embarrassment of riches, assuming that Luis Garcia and Lance McCullers come back healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. Because in the beginning of the season, I personally, my opinion, I thought they should have went and gotten Nathan Uvalde. I mean,
Me
Alvin,
too.
Texas native. That was
Me
like the
too.
number one guy. I thought the Astros should have gone because yes, like you were saying, they have all this depth in their starting rotation, but you just don't know what's going to carry. You don't know the because Lance McCullers hasn't played a full season healthy. Same thing as Luis Garcia. You didn't know if the Rock the Baby kind of with the time clock was going to mess him up. Jose Urquidy as well. He hasn't been very consistent. Nathan Uvalde was, to me, that guy that he has that postseason experience with Boston. Obviously, he's won a World Series too. He has that grit.
Now,
And that
Evaldi has
demeanor.
injury issues as well.
Yes, definitely
But
that too.
I think if you look at the Astros in 2022 and the Dodgers really for these last several years, you can never have enough starting pitching.
Exactly.
Even if you have to, I love what they've done. I believe they did it earlier. Was it game 1 or game 2 of the Marlins series? And they did it in the Yankees game, for one of the Yankees game. They would have, for instance, Christian Javier start, and he's been struggling, and he's only going to give you 5 at this point. So let's have JP France piggyback off that start, and he pitches well early. And then you had Framber Valdez with Hunter Brown coming out of the bullpen. He pitched very well. So that's a great way to manage their innings, to keep them fresh. And I wonder if that's something that they're going to do more of next year. But obviously, everyone's focused on this year.
Yeah, and then plus too, I mean, you don't know if because the Astros didn't have a GM at the time too. So that was probably another big factor with that being in place.
That played a factor, absolutely.
So before we end our show, we have some questions from Twitter. We have 2 questions we just wanted to ask. This is from @RebelPod12 on Twitter. Who are the Astros more likely to sign to a long-term contract? Framber Valdez or Kyle Tucker?
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a very good question. Let me Google Framber's what his contract situation is. He is severely underpaid. We know that.
Yeah.
When is he a free agent?
I'm looking it up right now. As well.
2026.
Yes.
He'll be 32. He's going to be arbitration eligible the next 2. My guess is that Kyle Tucker probably first, but you would hope that they do right by Framber. And considering how well he has pitched, the guy's an ace. He just is. And he's making $6.8 million. And again, that's big time money for all of us, for you and I, and I'm sure everyone watching. But none of us are major league pitchers who especially left-handed ones, who throw a 95-mile-per-hour sinker with a nasty hook. So my guess is it's going to be Kyle Tucker. My hope is that Framber also gets rewarded as well for all his work.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because you got to think about even the other future of the Astros. You got Jose Altuve coming on a contract, and then you got Alex Bregman on the other contract. So It's going to be a very, very interesting free agency when it comes to them years coming by.
No, they do have some interesting decisions to make, and I think that I'm looking at Jose Altuve. He is an unrestricted free agent in 2025, so they do have some very interesting decisions. I'm not sure what their contract situations look like. Obviously, Justin Verlander is there for 2 more years after this. The Mets are paying, a significant amount of money towards that. But yeah, it is going to be interesting to see what they do with Tucker, Fromber, Jose Altuve, and Alex Bregman. Those for me, those kind of all kind of lump into the what are they going to do with those four.
Yeah, I feel like some of these clubs are going to try to follow the Atlanta Braves game plan where they sign these guys early, and
yeah,
I mean it's worked. They're on fire.
No, I mean, but here's the thing: with Altuve, you're looking at 34. He'll be 35 years old when he becomes an unrestricted free agent. He's making $26 million. What's the number and how long? As far as Alex Bregman, because I think we can agree, you're probably getting close to the end of Jose Altuve's prime. That does not mean he still can't be a productive player. I'm not saying that, but his prime, you could, conventional wisdom would say you're getting towards the end of his prime. As for Alex Bregman, he'll be 31 when he's an unrestricted free agent. So yeah, I mean, Dana Brown's got some interesting decisions to make. I think the most important one is Kyle Tucker, because he is the cornerstone player. He's still in his prime. He's very young, and his price is only going to go up. So maybe you overpay a little bit now, knowing that over the course of those first few years of the contract, it's probably going to be just right.
Agree. He's a 5-tool player. I mean, with Yordan Alvarez, I mean, this guy, one of the most dangerous hitters in baseball. With Kyle Tucker, though, you kind of almost get it all. You get the defense, you got the arm, you got the speed, you got the contact, you got the power. That are the 5 essentials of being a 5-tool player.
I think that when you look at Yordan Alvarez, he's one of the most feared hitters in the game, maybe the most feared left-handed hitter in the game. But as you said, he doesn't. He's not the defensive player that Kyle Tucker is, doesn't run the bases like Tucker. And quite frankly, he hasn't been as durable as Kyle Tucker. So for me, you take Shohei Ohtani out of the American League, Kyle Tucker's probably winning the AL MVP. That's how good he's been this year.
It's almost like last year. Aaron Judge doing that record of the American League home runs. Yordan Alvarez doesn't get it. So another situation the Astros have to face. But our last Twitter question, it's from @Chris Ketchum. He says the Astros made 4 World Series appearances, won 2 championships, and are the only team in MLB history to reach 6 consecutive ALCSs. If the Astros win a 3rd title, where do they rank among the baseball dynasties?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack when you consider the Astros and their legacy and what went down in 2017. And we're not going to go over that again, but it is there. But I think, listen, you don't get to 6 consecutive ALCSs unless you have a bunch of ball players and your organization is built and develops players and knows how to win. So yeah, what went down in 2017, it's always going to be there. But I think what gets lost is, and what's unfortunate is that tends to overshadow just how good this franchise and group of players has been. Now, you could make the case that the reason that gets lost is because of their actions, and I get it. But most of those players have moved on, and this is basically a new group. I mean, Bregman and Altuve have been there, but Yordan wasn't there. Kyle Tucker wasn't there. Jeremy Pena wasn't there. Chas McCormick wasn't there. I mean, Framber Valdez, I don't think was there. So it's look, I think smart baseball fans will tell you there's a lot more to this team than what went down back several years ago. This is as far as where they rank in history, who knows? You can't. I have found you can't really discuss rationally the Astros and their legacy with fans, especially those from opposing teams. So that's going to be up for others to decide, and probably people much smarter than me. But I'm just telling you that this is the dynasty. It has been a dynasty, and this is the golden age of Astros baseball. And hopefully they can find a way to sustain it, albeit you might have to have a few different cast of characters.
Yep, definitely the golden era of Astros baseball, as they call it here down in Houston, especially on Twitter and all social media platforms that the Astros have done. But before we go and sign off with you, Altuve is near 2,000 hits, 3 hits until 2,000. It could be possibly happening at Minute Maid Park this coming weekend.
Yeah.
Do you believe he will reach 3,000 hits at the end of his career?
Oh, that's a good question. How old did I say he was? Let me go back. 34.
Yeah.
So he's 33 right
33.
now. Man, that's a lot of hits. I'm going to say he comes up just short. But for me, I think he is I think he's a Hall of Famer. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that will push back on that and blah, blah, blah. But for me, he's a Hall of Famer. A guy that's had some big moments in the postseason, an MVP. Whether he gets to 3,000, I don't know. That's a long way to go. 1,000 more hits after he reaches 2,000. That's a lot. I don't know if he'll get there, but hopefully he'll find his place in Cooperstown when it's all said and done.
Agreed.
Definitely. I believe I'm looking right now. Craig Biggio got his 3,000 hit at the age of 41.
Okay.
So there could be maybe a possibility, just like how Biggio ended that. I mean, I think that was his last season with the Astros and the last year of his career in 2007 when he got the
Now was
hits.
Biggio, was he playing with the Astros when they moved to the American League?
I don't think so.
He was not? Okay. So the fact that you got the DH,
definitely
I think that helps Jose a little bit. He's not going to be your primary designated hitter. But he looks like a guy that will that takes care of himself. He's going to be obviously he's a smaller guy, and I think smaller guys tend to age a little bit better than those big giant behemoths or taller guys for whatever reason. I mean, that's just what I think. I don't have any scientific data to back it up. But yeah, I mean, sure. I would love to see him reach 3,000. That would be amazing. He reaches that, then he's definitely in. But even without that, I think he deserves a spot in Cooperstown.
Most definitely. He could become the 4th Astro or 3rd Astro, depending on Billy Wagner's situation too, going into the Hall next year. And we'll have to keep a good close eye on that. But Robert, that is all the time we got. Thank you for taking the time out of your day just to be on here and talk some Astros baseball with us. But Angel, you got anything to add on?
No, just thank you once again. I know with the whole network, it's sometimes time can be so little, but thank you so much for being here.
No, thanks for having me, guys, and I appreciate it. And tell everyone down in Houston I said hello.
For sure, definitely.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And until then, we'll give you all that recap of the Mariners and preview of that Boston Red Sox series. But till then, have a safe weekend. Go Astros.